I don't know what's going on with the scheduling. The Sens and Leafs are only playing 3 times this year.
Brutal. Yeah, we got to get more of those games. We don't know how many battles of Ontario we got left in us, Ross, so we got to savor each one.
What do you mean?
Who knows how many battles of Ontario there's going to be in our lifetime. So every time there is one, you got to savor it, Ross.
Well, today's one of those days. So allow Pilsy to preach to you on the length of life. But we're here living.
Brought to you by Select Quote.
On today's show, we've got a game day preview. The Ottawa Senators are in Toronto for the first Battle of Ontario this season.
And it's the first time these two teams have played since the Ridly Greig Slap Shot heard all around the world.
We'll get into all of that. Plus, we've got friend of the show, Mike DiStefano, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive, to break down what's going on with the blue and white. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Sens.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can also follow the show on Twitter at Sens Central, on Instagram, LockedOn.Senators. You can find the show free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, and Pilsy, what's your feeling on games in hand? Because looking around the division, it feels like from Toronto to Montreal, we've got 2 games in hand on everybody, it feels.
Well, games in hand can be good or bad, Ross. I'm going to spin out into being a good thing because you can look at those precious games in hand and you can be like, hey, let's go ahead and count those as 2 wins or 4 points. And then you can slot yourself accordingly in the standings. But, I mean, all things considered, it doesn't really mean much. It just means how you decide to look at your team up against the division or wildcard race.
Yesterday, the Montreal Canadiens got a regulation win over the Buffalo Sabres, so now Buffalo falls to below 500. However, they are, again, 2 games played more than Ottawa, so the Senators sit 6th in the division, and they're looking up at the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have won 3 games in a row, are 9-5-2. We'll get to a full game day preview on them, but to start in our own backyard, the Ottawa Senators expecting Shane Pinto to play in tonight's game. What kind of boost does that give not only the team on the ice, but in the locker room as well?
Well, I mean, Shane Pinto is an important guy for this team on and off the ice, Ross. He's the ultimate vibes guy. I feel like he's a lovable goofball that just lightens the mood on everything.
The Sens CVO, the Chief Vibes Officer.
Yeah, big time. He's always the first one to crack up at his own jokes. You love having a guy like that around. Brady even told us when we chatted with him that when Pinto came back last season, it was a huge emotional boost for the team. So I expect the same here, even though it's only been, 8 games absence?
Well, no, it's been, 8, because the Senators were 4-2 when he played his last game.
Yeah, and you'll notice that that's a winning record, Ross. The Ottawa Senators need Shane Pinto around. We always talk about how important it is, not only when Shane Pinto is just here, but in the rare glimpses where you get to see an Ottawa Senators lineup with Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, and Shane Pinto. This team is absolutely incredible. So
it's like seeing 3 big feet right all together. Group photo of Bigfoot.
But you get 3 of them. And just having a third line center. No offense to Zach Ostapchuk, but him compared to where Shane Pinto is at is a huge improvement. I actually think Ostapchuk has looked decent this time around, but Shane Pinto getting into the lineup is a massive upgrade.
Massive. And against Toronto, I mentioned in yesterday's episode, he's got 7 points in 8 career games, and it will become a matchup advantage for the Ottawa Senators down the middle because it looks like Austin Matthews is doubtful for the game. Matthews is a Sens killer, has been since his first career NHL game. He's been out the last couple, and we'll talk to Mikey about why later on in today's show. But we expect Shane Pinto to be in between Noah Gregor and Michael Amadio. He was asked about playing with those two. He says, look, Noah Gregor can fly. We're just trying to get him into spots where he can use his speed to his advantage and try to let him get some speed and create a bit of a different matchup. It's also a revenge game for Noah Gregor. Played last year with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So looking forward to that. We expect the lines to be the same as they were at practice yesterday, which would mean that Josh Norris remains centering Brady Tkachuk and Ridly Greig, Tim Stützle between Claude Giroux and Drake Batherson, Shane Pinto with Gregor and Amadio. That fourth line sticking together with Adam Gaudette, Nick Cousins, and Zach McEwen. On the back end, no changes expected, which means Jake Sanderson will play with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot will be with Nick Jensen, Tyler Klevin with Travis Hamonic, and no announcement on the starting goalie. Full disclosure, we're recording this at 6:30 p.m. on Monday night. We think it'll be Linus Ullmark, but Pillsy, I think we've been wrong more times than we've been right when we try to guess.
We don't know a damn thing when it comes to what goalies are starting, and we might think it's clear that the choice would be Ullmark, but we've thought that multiple times this season, and Travis Green has gone a different direction, or Ullmark wasn't necessarily 100% ready to go and Forsberg has been put in. But we stand strong, Ross, saying that we believe the correct decision is Ullmark.
And your locked on player to watch tonight is
number 12, Shane Pinto. I feel like we kind of did a deep dive into Pinto already, so I won't say too much about it other than in 6 games so far, he's got a goal, 2 assists, and he's at a -3, so we want to see that bump up a little bit. But that third line was really kind of slacking right before Shane Pinto got injured. So I'm hoping that they can ignite something and get it going again, especially Ross. Now that Amadio's got that monkey off his back, he scored his first goal. Noah Gregor had the assist, and he's also got a goal under his belt too. So hopefully those guys have a little bit more confidence, and Shane Pinto can help them keep those stats climbing.
The Ottawa Senators are 3-0-0 this season when Shane Pinto has a point. My locked-on player to watch is Thomas Chabot tonight. 14 games this season. He's got 1 goal and 7 assists. He's a +3, which is nice to see for Chabot, and he's averaging 23 minutes and 10 seconds. 2 notes on Chabot. 1, I don't think he and Nick Jensen are getting enough credit around the country and the league of how solid they've been, especially since the calendar turned to November. They're both top 4 in expected goals percentage among defensemen who have played more than 30 minutes. That's our guy, Mr. T. Raynard, had that stat on Twitter earlier today. But I also love the commitment in the defensive zone from Thomas Chabot. He's already got 30 blocks this season. He had 88 in 51 games last year. So that commitment defensively is allowing him and his partner to spend more time with the puck and in the offensive zone where they've been doing great work. So look, maybe it's because the last time I saw Thomas Chabot live in Toronto, he scored one of his highlight goals of his career, undressed Igor Ozhiganov and put the puck, yeah, exactly, and put the puck in. I forget who was the goalie at that point, but man, you go back, that was early, I believe in the 2019 season. No, they lost that game. 2018? My goodness, dating myself. Yeah, he had 2 goals and an assist in that game and was +4. The Senators have had a lot of success against the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially in that building, which, considering how bad the Sens have been and how good the Leafs have been in the regular season over the last 5 years, 10 years even, the Senators have really had their number. You think of it was 5-1. You think of many other games. Last year, they were down early. I remember I was listening to the game on the radio flying in Hawaii, and they went down 2-0 early, and a shorthanded goal got Ottawa back in the game. They won that one right around Christmas time. So I'm just hoping for more fireworks, more entertainment, and I think Thomas Chabot could be a part of the reason why the Senators are able to have success against the Leafs. In Chabot's career against the Toronto Maple Leafs, the longest-serving Ottawa Senator has 15 points in 23 games.
And I think, Ross, I know you mentioned how good that Chabot-Jensen pair is, but just to touch on that a little more, now that Chabot feels like he is a stable partner that he has good chemistry with, I think it's just allowed him to relax a little bit more, and we're seeing less of those egregious defensive turnovers that we saw so much of, because it probably felt like to Thomas Chabot that he's got to ramp everything up even more and hold up whatever partner he was with formerly just to feel like he's getting enough offensive production or he's doing enough out on the ice. Now that he's got a guy in Jensen he can trust and that also has some pretty good offensive handles himself, I think it's allowed him to ease into his game and be a better player defensively, which is what we need from Thomas Chabot. So I'm loving Shabby's season so far.
Especially as the top pair of Jake Sanderson and Artem Zub try to rekindle that chemistry that got them up to such a hot start. There's no doubt Jake Sanderson especially has been struggling over the course of the last 2 weeks, and with Zub just came back, so let's give him a couple more games before really getting into what his deficiencies have been. But those two have been on the ice for quite a few goals against in the last 2 games, so you're hoping that the Ottawa Senators and that defensive structure can stay strong against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The main storyline going into this game, though, does the beef from last February spill over? Let's discuss that next. Then we'll be joined by Mike DiStefano from Locked On Maple Leafs to tee up the Leafs side of the Battle of Ontario. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by a new sponsor, Ross. New sponsor alert.
Wow!
Wow, indeed. Guys, the big games, the World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quotes licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates for shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that might end up costing you more and cover less. You invest so much of your time to take care of yourself and to be the healthiest version of you. Select Quote's exclusive policies can reward that effort. Head to selectquote.com and a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Select Quote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/lockedon today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedon.
Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Get ready to tackle the action every Sunday. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. I mentioned Sundays because I love sitting on the couch, opening the FanDuel app when it's NFL season, and that way I can see all the live bets that I can make. I can view live play-by-play. I can check out the latest stats and so much more on the same place that I make my bets. You can check out the Ottawa Senators line for tonight's game. Got to think they're going to be hungry dogs on the road, and I want them to eat. You know that I'm doing a parlay. Sens win, Ridly Greig goal. Put those two together. You don't even need it to be an empty net, but if it is, even better. Go get that right now. It is at FanDuel. Because new customers, you can bet $5, and if you win, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NHL. All right, Pillsy, game day for the Ottawa Senators, and a big one at that. The Senators in Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs tonight. It is a 7 o'clock puck drop, and we will have the postcast for you after tonight's game. And Pillsy, for the first time ever, we will have the entire postcast crew. You, me, Martian, Jack, all in the mix.
First time ever. That's crazy. And I mean, hey, if you're going to debut that elite group of all of us, might as well be on a Battle of Ontario postcast. So I'm fired up about that.
I can't wait. It's going to be always a good time. And I know that the outrage was, palpable when you go and look back the last time these two teams met. You can go rewatch that postcast if you want to get fired up for tonight's game. Pilsy jumped in, had no idea what had happened. Martian and I were steering the ship, and you were down on vacation, and we kind of explained to you the situation. It was all time. We even clipped it and made it a small video if you don't want to search through it. Thoughts on the Ridly Greig, Morgan Riley situation last February. My question to you is, how much carryover do you think there's going to be from that? Because we're also looking at 10 months in between.
I think it's still going to be hot, Ross. Like Morgan Riley got what, a 6-game suspension?
I think it was 5, but either way, now the Leafs did start a 5-game winning streak after they lost. So some Leaf fans are trying to make themselves feel better and credit Ridly Greig for waking up a sleeping giant. That I'm sure that means they won a playoff series, right?
No. But I don't blame Leafs fans for having that spin zone. Like,
yeah,
that
no,
is
it's
the correct
a
spin
good
zone.
It's a good spin zone.
Yeah.
Is it going to be Morgan Riley? Is it going to be Ryan Reeves? Is it going to be something that sits until the game is out of hand? Because Ridly Greig not only scored a goal in that game, he's also +4. This was one of his better games at the NHL. And frankly, you look at his stats, man, he could use a game like this. Like, he scored in the next game. He's only got 2 goals in 11 games, no assist, -5 this year. And I know it's tough when, he was in a situation where he missed a couple games early on in the season because of injury, but like, could you think of a better time for him to break out of his shell here and have a multi-point game?
It would be great if we saw that, Ross. I don't think Morgan Riley's going to go for him. I feel like Morgan Riley probably feels like he got his pound of flesh, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Reeves is buzzing around looking to, try to make up for that. And whether it's with Ridly Greig or not, I doubt Ridly Greig would give him the opportunity. But I'm sure there's going to be some sort of chippiness or a fight that ensues because the Leafs still probably are upset about that Ridly Greig goal.
The way the Sens win this battle is to go on the power play, where the Sens have been absolutely elite this season, and you just kind of shrug it off. And Ridly Greig's no stranger to taking a punch or two in the face, a cross check maybe every once in a while. So I think that if you're Ridly Greig, you just eat it and take the power play and let the boys go to work.
Yeah, I agree, Ross. That was going to be my key to victory, is get under their skin. I want to see Nick Cousins be a greasy sewer rat and really rattle this Toronto Maple Leafs team. Probably Zach McEwen will be here as well. So if there's any sort of answering of the bells that need to be happening, I want Zach McEwen to be the guy, not Brady Tkachuk and not Ridly Greig. So there's an opportunity for this to be another entertaining game, Ross.
Now, the one asterisk I'll put there is if Morgan Riley wants to fight Ridly Greig or vice versa, because, Ridly Greig's the one who ate a cross-check. Now, that's a trade-off that I'll take.
Yeah, and that's a little bit more in each other's weight class, I'm sure.
But if we see Ryan Reeves go after Ridly Greig, like, that would just be the biggest, okay, buddy. Like, okay, Hardo, let's go. What do you want?
He's probably going to do that, Ross. It's just about, does Ridley allow him to get the opportunity or not?
Do you remember after that goal how Ryan Reeves tried his best to get on the ice and they just didn't even put him out there?
Well, and that's the thing, Ross. Like, that's got to be in Reeves' head the number one way he can have an impact on this game, because otherwise there's not a whole lot he can do.
Ottawa Senators did win that game, of course, last February 10th with that empty net goal. And it was, did that just seal it, or was that the second goal? I got it right here. 5-3 was the final score in that game. Max Domi had made it a 1-goal game. It was that way until, and this might even make it even better. Guess how much time was left when Ridly Greig took the slap shot into an empty net?
I'm going to guess a lot of time. 2 minutes, 40 seconds.
6 seconds.
Oh, okay. So not a lot of time.
No, so he could have just run out the clock or a little slide play. But look, it was emphatic. The Ottawa Senators needed that win at that time. Obviously, it meant nothing in the long run, but it was fun to see. So let's watch. And 2.1 million Mad Leaf fans is how many followers they have on Twitter. If you're wondering how I got to that number, I put the
We
plus
polled
because
all Leafs fans, and we got 2.1 million of them to say they are still angry.
a lot of them were very angry. We'll ask Mike DiStefano in our next segment if he's still angry about that play. But before we get to break, Pilsy, let's just look at our lookout players to watch. We'll do the lineup with Mikey. I'm going with Chris Tanev. Definitely not a player I wanted Ottawa to get this summer. No way. We never did any show talking about how great Chris Tanev would look in Ottawa's Senators red, black, and white. A little gold in there too. He ends up striking gold with his contract, though. He's lived up to it. 52 block shots, Pilsy, in 16 games. This is the type of defenseman that if you're Ottawa, you're not going to get the matchups you want, and he's playing with Jake McCabe. That's going to be a tough shutdown pair that you're going to try to get Timmy's line away from.
Definitely. Yeah, Chris Tanev. I mean, he's the ultimate hockey dude. Like, if you just see a picture of this guy,
yeah,
it wouldn't take anyone more than one guess to guess what he does as a profession. That's for sure. But the Leafs, they paid for it. Like, isn't he getting 4.5 for like 6 years?
I believe it's a 7-year contract. Sorry, 6-year deal at 4.5. Correct.
Yeah. So I don't think that's a deal the Sens should have entertained. But the Toronto Maple Leafs seem to find a way to make contracts that they don't want anymore disappear. So we'll see how they do that with this one. But
yeah, but right now it's a great addition. I mean, he's only got 3. He's got, sorry, did I mess that up? He's got 6 assists or 3? No, I think he's got 3.
3, yeah. You got an extra 6 assists in there, giving him a little too much credit. Someone that does have 6 assists, though, Ross, is my lookout player.
6 annuals with Toronto. That's a spin zone. That's how we know it's a 6-year contract.
There you go. Max Domi will be my lookout player, number 11. Don't love seeing that. But in 16 games, he has 6 assists, and he's lining up as this team's number 1 center, Ross, with Austin Matthews not, or at least doubtful to play tomorrow. He's going to have a big elevated role in that lineup. As you see here, he's only used to about 14:52 time on ice. That's going to go up big time. So we'll see if he can kind of live up to the performance. And it is kind of cool seeing a Domi back in the Battle of Ontario. Like the Battle of Ontario, there's so many kind of nods to the past. The Sens have Travis Green here. That's a little weird too. So I'm going to be looking out for the Leafs' number 1 center, Max Domi.
Well, and Daniel Alfredson on the bench for the Ottawa Senators as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. Those are some lookout players for more. Let's get to our conversation with Mike DiStefano to discuss his thoughts on both the Leafs and the Senators in the first Battle of Ontario this season. And Pilsy, we got to cherish these moments because I don't know what's going on with the scheduling. The Sens and Leafs are only playing 3 times this year.
Brutal. Yeah, we got to get more of those games. We don't know how many battles of Ontario we got left in us, Ross. So we got to savor each one.
What do you mean?
Who knows how many battles of Ontario there's going to be in our lifetime. So every time there is one, you got to savor it, Ross.
Well, today's one of those days. So allow Pilsy to preach to you on the length of life. But we're here living.
Brought to you by Select Quote.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Shout out Select Quote. You know we love some new advertisers here, Locked On Sens. Hey, if you got a business in Ottawa and you want to have a very passionate fan base, local fan base, make sure to check us out, Locked On Sens. You can contact us on our YouTube page or through Twitter at Sens Central. All right, here he is, Mike DiStefano, Locked On Leafs. You might know him from TSN's Overdrive as the Al's brother.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Mary J's. Mary J's is a locally owned cannabis dispensary in the Ottawa area. Started off with 3 best friends making a life-changing decision and following their dreams. Through hard work and dedication, they got 4 stores in Ottawa. You can check them out at Riverside South, Orleans, Greeley, and Russell. Mary J's offers the best and newest products in the market, and they're adding new stuff to the menu every single week to keep it fresh. They offer competitive pricing. In fact, they're going to price match any store in Ottawa. That means you're guaranteed to get the best price around when you shop at Mary J's. And they've got the best customer service with friendly bud tenders who are always ready to help you out. One of the owners, Dashy, diehard Sens fan, absolute beauty. He's usually at one of the stores, so go say what up to Dashy. Pick his brain about the Sens and all the latest, greatest products that Mary J's has to offer, and check out their website and get yourself a loyalty card. It's Mary J's Dispensary.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Whenever I want real money on sports action, I go to Prize Picks. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks puts their members first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And because Prize Picks invented the flex play, it means I can still cash out even if my lineup isn't perfect. Because our friends over at Prize Picks make it clear that even if your pick doesn't hit, you can still double your money. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 bet. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So go to Prize Picks, download the app, and create code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app, use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we now welcome a very good friend of the show, Mike DiStefano from Locked On Leafs. What's up, pal?
What's going on, boys? Battle of Ontario igniting, so never a dull moment. Should be a fun day. Fun day.
First time since the Ridly Greig Slap Shot into the empty net. Is that a storyline for you going into this one? Because we were wondering how the Leafs players are feeling about it. It's been so long, but it's the first time.
I would imagine so. I mean, especially like Riley gets the suspension, obviously. I think both sides are going to want to, have something going tonight. You don't think like the Senators are going to want retribution on Riley at all? And I think that'll just create the animosity both ways. I think something will come out of tonight.
I don't get the feeling that Sens players would want any retribution. I feel like Ridly Greig knew what he was doing, Mikey. He's a bit of a shift disturber, we like to call him. So he even said it like, I had a feeling something was coming after that one. But if the Leafs are going to be looking for retribution, are we going to see Morgan Riley try to get another pound of flesh here? Or do you feel like he's kind of like, I had my piece? Or is it going to be Ryan Reeves kind of lurking around trying to get impactful in the game?
No, what I think would probably be more likely is more so someone will want to get their pound of flesh on Riley. Riley got his. I mean, he got a 5-game suspension for it. He went after him. He got his, right? So now at this point, I think it's a matter of whether or not the Sens are going to retaliate from, the attack, whatever you want to call it, on Ridly Greig. And then based on that, the Leafs will have to respond, right? Stick up for their team. And that could start with something. I mean, regardless, it's the Battle of Ontario. You got 2 teams. Looks like you guys are finally going to be in a playoff race. So 2 points are going to be valuable. And they're all going to be fighting tonight. Not physically fighting, but they're going to be battling and things to get intense. I wouldn't be shocked to see at least one time we see a couple of gloves hit the ice.
Well, that'd be fine with me, especially the joke was before February 10th that it was becoming the Ballet of Ontario. Yeah. It was more skill and back and forth. There wasn't much animosity, but all that changed the second that Ridly Greig wound up for an empty net slap shot with 6 seconds left in their last game. 5-3 was the final score. It was a close game right to the end. 1-goal game after the Leafs scored early in the third period. But here we kick off the first of 3 games head-to-head. Mike, what's the biggest storyline for the Leafs going into tonight's game?
Well, it's whether or not Matthews is going to play. He didn't practice again. He's missed the last couple of games, and right now is doubtful. I think I would say it is night 1 of a back-to-back. So there's a thought process that potentially they could be holding him out. Maybe he plays that second game against Washington, some fresher legs. So that's the one storyline I think that people are paying attention to. And then also, can the Leafs continue to play the way that they have over the last couple of days, continue to play with good structure. They're playing well defensively. They're playing heavy hockey. They look like a Craig Berube team. They're starting to find that identity a little bit. So going up against a spunky young Ottawa team, I think that's what they're going to try and probably impose their will tonight. I would assume that would be the game plan for the Maple Leafs.
How different has this team looked with new leadership, Mikey? I know we're not sure if Matthews is going to play tonight, officially labeled doubtful, so doubtful we see him. But has there been a major shift in this team just with Tavares not having the C anymore?
Honestly, it's probably a question I could answer a little better if I was in the room, right? If I was down there doing interviews post game and stuff, but I haven't been able to do that this year. So I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like there's that big of a difference. Like, and even if there was, I couldn't really tell if it's just because there's a change in captaincy or because it's the change of coach. Like now it's a no nonsense kind of Berube guy in there, and everyone's still trying to, I guess, try to impress the new coach. Like, could that be a reason why guys are playing different? The structure's different, the way they want to play, more north-south, more heavy, less skill. Like, I think just the vibe is different in general. I'm just not sure if that has much to do with the captaincy more so than it does with, the changing behind the bench and the team, the way the team's been constructed and wants to play.
Well, who thought that the biggest, strongest part of the construction would be signing what might have been more of a backup goalie contract than anything? Anthony Stolar, 6-2-2 on the season, a .930 save percentage. What's been his secret to success?
Well, I'm just glad that the Leafs didn't have to give up a first-round pick, like a Mark Hasselage level player, for someone who's not going to play. And, you can go out there and spend $2.5 million on an Anthony Stolarz and get far better play. So, but in all seriousness, it's been a hell of a signing. He's been terrific for the Maple Leafs. I think right now he's right up there. I think I saw entering tonight's play or last night's play, the Maple Leafs were tied with the Rangers for 5-on-5 save percentage in the NHL. So they're getting good goaltending, and it's mainly led by Anthony Stolarz. He's been excellent. He's a big goalie. He's an athletic goalie. He's making saves with his bare hand. Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. He's like 30 years old, and he's just finally popping off, getting his opportunity. We see this happen with goaltenders quite often, where it takes them a little later in their career to get established and then get that opportunity. But he truly has ran away with it here. And I imagine he'll get the start tonight, and probably Joseph Woll get the start against Washington. So it'll be nice to see Stolarz playing in a heated battle of Ontario.
Who's someone on the Sens that you're going to be looking out for in this game? We like to do locked on players. That's our own players. Lookout players. That's the opponent's players. So who is a lookout player for you on the Sens, Mike?
I would say probably, on the blue line, like Jake Sanderson's looking pretty good this year. So, watch what he can do on the blue line. Tim Stutz is always someone who you got to watch out for when it comes to him. And then, Brady Tkachuk. Like, Tkachuk's just always going to be a menace. He's going to be trying to get in the grill of Anthony Stolarz. So defensively, guys like Chris Tanev, guys like OEL and Jake McCabe are going to have to make sure that they keep him as far away from the crease as possible, and try and make him a non-factor. That's hard to do, obviously, the way that he plays. And, the namesake, it's really hard just to leave those guys alone. But I would say those are probably the players that I'd be locked in on tonight watching the Senators.
Yeah, just quickly, Ross, Brady had 12 shots and 8 hits last game, so keeping him out of the game, easier said than done.
Yeah. Mikey, he had in the final 25 minutes of the game, if we're talking about the last period and overtime, even a bit into the second, the Bruins had 1 shot on Saturday night, and Brady Tkachuk had 6 in the final 25 minutes of the game.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby.
And he always obviously plays well. Battle of Ontario. He's up to 19 points in, I think, 24 games head-to-head against the Leafs. Now let's take a look at how the Leafs would line up if Austin Matthews is not in the lineup. He wasn't there at practice. We got the lineup from Mark Masters over at TSN. Max Domi sitting on that second letter of his name in goals this year, 0, between Matty Nyes and Mitch Marner. You got John Tavares between Bobby McMahon and William Nylander. Pontus Holmberg centering Nick Robertson and Connor Dewar. And David Camps between Steven Lorenz and Ryan Reeves. On the back end, Morgan Riley, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. You got Jake McCabe with Chris Tanev, Simon Benoit, and Connor Timmins. We already discussed likely that Anthony Stolarz starts in goal. Who's a locked-on player for you, Mikey? I picked Chris Tanev as a player to watch in this game. We got Max Domi for Pilsy. being in that number one center position. We're going to be watching for tonight.
Well, I mean, look at the guy who's up near the leaderboard when it comes to goals scored this season. William Nylander. He's been a beast, and in the absence of Austin Matthews, like if he's going to be out again tonight, you're going to need some more offense from other guys, and he's the one who's really been picking up the slack. So William Nylander, it's a pretty chalky thing to say. I didn't get cute with it. He's the guy who, is really garnering a lot of eyes every night when the Maple Leafs go out to play. And, he's really earning that contract that he signed last year. And he's somebody who is definitely going to have to kind of lead the charge when it comes to the Maple Leafs trying to produce some offense without Matthews, who we all know usually comes up pretty big and torches the Sens. So with him gone, someone else is going to have to pick up the slack. And Willie's done a pretty good job the last little bit here.
What's been the bread and butter of the Leafs' success this year? Like, what's the one thing that you can look at and you're like, they're really doing well in this category, and that's leading to W's?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think they're really just playing a much stronger game, playing a heavier game. And if you look at a lot of like the heat maps, right? It's a lot better. They're getting shots in tight. They're going to the net, and they're getting those opportunities within the slot and inner slot, and then they're preventing them on the other side. Like they're allowing Stolars and Wall to face kind of easier shots. The high danger chances have been cut down from last year, and their defensemen are doing a good job of just like killing plays down low, not allowing teams to kind of set up and move the puck around and work into the inside. They're keeping the center of the ice pretty clear, which is exactly what Craig Berube was kind of preaching at the beginning of the season. Took a little bit, but the last, few games here, they've really, really bought into that style of hockey. So that's really been, I think, what's allowed this team to find success here of late, especially. And, hopefully they can continue it tonight against Ottawa.
Special teams.
Not yours. My sake.
Yeah, well, Ottawa's hoping to win 2 games in a row for just the second time this season. So, and in Sens land, it's about huge divisional points on the line. It's a big game, even though it's going to be a mid-November tilt in Toronto. So special teams is something I noticed when I'm looking at the Leafs as well. They had a long drought, 6 games on the power play. But since then, in their last 4 games, they're clicking over 50%, 8 for 15. How has this coincided with Austin Matthews being out of the lineup? You'd think his shot, his lethal dynamic ability would be something that thrives with the man advantage. But since he's been out, they've been red hot.
It is kind of interesting, isn't it? Like they could not find a way to find the back of the net in the power play. They had like an 0 for 20 skid going. And then all of a sudden, Austin Matthews, the world's best goal scorer, goes out of the lineup. And now all they do is score goals. It's insane. They got like 6 power play goals in their last 4 games. It's wild. But, I think it probably is really just because it allows them to be less predictable. Like when Matthews is there, everyone kind of knows what's happening, right? The puck eventually will end up onto Matthews' stick, and he's going to try and take the shot. But when Matthews isn't there, it's kind of anyone's guess, right? Are they going to try and filter it inside and see if they can get something to Tavares where he can do his work in and around the goal? Nyes has done a good job, in
the game against Winnipeg, and obviously he's out of lineup too now.
He's out now too, for sure, which is kind of sucks because he's been playing pretty well for someone who's missed a lot of time to injury over the last couple of years. But I think that's probably the answer, is the fact that it's just less predictable and it's harder to defend. They're doing a good job of like opening up lanes. And I'll say this too, if you look at the numbers, like the statistics, I think while they're on that 0 for 20 skid, they had scored 4 goals below expectation on the power play. So it was just insane bad puck luck. I think they were shooting like 5 or 6% on the power play. So it was only a matter of time before the pendulum swung the other way, and it has in a big way. And it's been a big reason why they've been able to win 3 straight games here, and hoping to make it 4.
Final prediction for tonight's game.
Ooh. I mean, you want me to come on this podcast and really, really sit here and say that the Leafs are going to absolutely
say what you feel. Say what you feel. You can be honest.
And we'll just let people know they can find you at Mikey_Canuck on Twitter. If they have a problem with anything you said, Mikey's got his customer service open 24/7.
Or we can cut it if we don't like it.
Yeah, we'll cut it, man. Don't worry. Just say what you feel. We'll cut it.
You could cut it. Well, I think the Leafs are going to win tonight. I do.
Oh.
I think they're gonna probably like a good butt whooping. I think that they will win the goaltending battle. We'll see a couple of nice snipes. I think Nylander hits the scoreboard. Let's hit 5-2 final. 5-2 final for the Maple Leafs.
With an empty net?
Yes. 5-2 empty net.
But softly placed in the net.
Yeah,
I
it
would
better
hope.
not be more than 10 miles
Nice
an hour.
clapper.
Yeah.
Nice
Be
clapper
sportsmanship.
from like 4 feet from the crease. Yeah, that's what I think.
No, fair game. That's a good play, honestly.
Oh, they would have to. It was just like when Alfie faked toss his stick a week after Matt Sundin got suspended. Alfie goes in there, breaks his stick, and says, I'm not dumb enough to actually throw my stick in the crowd. You think I want that fight? No way, not me. Okay, Pillsy, give me your fan fiction. I've had enough of Mikey's.
My fan fiction. That's every episode of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm going to go with the 5-4 overtime win. Ridley Greig with the winner in overtime.
And Marner on the back check, just with a little too much cement in his boots. Maybe he stops and ties his skates at the blue line.
That's a good play. Yep.
He's feeling himself, though. He's feeling himself. He again, when next man up in mentality is something I really think it really strengthens a team. And with Matthews gone, he's stepped up, both him and Willie. But Marner, now that he's kind of carrying a line with him, Nyes, and Domi, has really, really stepped up. So and that's also something to watch for tonight.
Yeah, you're right. He actually only has 2 less goals than Adam Gaudette. That's pretty impressive for Mitch Marner.
Yeah, you guys can keep stat watching, but what's going on in the standings? I can't recall what the standings look like right now.
I don't
either. Left. A lot of hockey
left.
Well,
Games in hand. If the Sens win tonight's game, not a math guy, but I think they might be passing Toronto in points percentage. That's how early we are in the season that they can just swing on the dime.
Well, I'll tell you what. We did our early season like wild predictions right before the season started. Okay. My prediction was that we'd see a Leafs Sens Battle of Ontario in round 1 of the playoffs.
Me too. I had that too.
We'll see.
Great minds. All right, Mikey. Appreciate the preview of tonight's game. Enjoy it, and I wish you nothing but failure on the ice.
All right, boys. Go Leafs.
All right, stick taps to Mike DiStefano for stepping into enemy territory for that conversation. Always appreciate him. For more on the Leafs, go check out Locked On Leafs. Kind of funny, Pillsy. You know how we're LOSP?
Yep.
The Leafs are LOL.
Nice. That fits with the Toronto Maple laughs, so we love it.
Exactly. Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's game day edition?
Final thoughts for me is get ready for a postcast. Ross Levitan, Brandon Piller, Lillems Martian, Jack Richardson, the first time ever. All 4 of us are together, so it's going to be a fun one. Hopefully, the Ottawa Senators make it a vibecast for our sake.
I'm done with the win one, lose one, win one, lose one. Let's get above 500. Big game tonight, 7 o'clock start. And as Pillsy said, we'll be in the postcast after the game. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.